Have you ever thought about how you learn? What is your learning style? As a teacher, a parent, and a personality profiler, I've witnessed the impact of knowing who you are and understanding what makes you tick, and how it can improve the way you teach and understand your children or students in your classroom. You may learn best through many ways, such as repetition, visualization, actions, and listening. We all have our individual styles of learning. Some of us may have several processes of learning. Others may need a more specific method. When we want to teach someone a task or a learning experience, understanding our own teaching style will also help us reach the audience we're trying to teach. We can help them to learn by ensuring our messages get across. Not only is this important for teachers, but also for you as parents, who are continuously teaching your child in the home environment. They might not be learning schoolwork, but they're learning life skills. They're learning to do up shoelaces, wash themselves, table manners, how to handle discipline, how to cook and clean. Well, I wish. I'm not sure whether that ever really does happen. As you listen today, see if you can work out your own learning and teaching style, as well as your kids', as you begin to recognise who you are and teach them in their learning style. I'm Kate Mason, and today on Personalities, Parenting and Partners, we'll be talking to Tui Boyes about how to help you teach your child at home and at school. Hi Karen, thanks for joining me once again, this time to share with us your wisdom and knowledge about children's learning and study styles. If you could just give us a quick rundown of how you came to the business of helping teachers, students and parents.
A quick rundown. Oh, hi Kate, and hi everybody listening. I'm excited to be back. So a quick rundown. I was a teacher. I was put on this planet to teach, and I knew that was my calling in life. So as a teacher though, I realized very quickly two things. One, students would come into school with that bright light in their eyes, that excitement, that zest for learning, and I watched it die about age 6 and 7. And I thought, what are we doing that's turning kids off the very thing they should be getting excited about, which is learning? And the second thing I discovered was that I was never told or taught at Teachers College or university how children learn. And I thought, how can I be a teacher and not understand the brain? So I left teaching. Shockingly, it's now 28 years ago.
Wow, that's not shocking. That's great.
I can't believe it's that long ago. But I have been working with teachers, parents and students ever since, and continue to learn and grow and find out more.
Fantastic, because I also am a teacher and I went through the same thing. I never really learned how teachers learn, even like what we learned at university never actually prepared us for teaching children, and learning how children learn is a big gap in leaving that, not leaving the profession, going into the profession. So how do you go about teaching teachers and helping teachers out? What's the way you do it?
Oh, we have many different ways. So I often do in-school workshops where the teachers get all the same information. We run conferences. We now run online summits. Just run 7 of those in the last 2 years. Mm-hmm. And I love online summits. And we have a magazine called the Teachers Matter magazine. So we have my own podcast, Teachers Matter. So lots of different ways that we are getting information out to teachers about how children learn.
That's fantastic. So can you let us know some of the most important things, because there are so many things that we need to know and understand about teaching children. Give us some of your favourite areas that you look at that you think that people could pick up pretty quickly from hearing us today, that they might be able to then utilise in either their classroom or, as I'm talking about, parents as well. These things are useful for everybody, not just the teacher, just for anyone that needs to help children learn. So hit us with it.
It is with it. Well, I was reflecting on the work that you do, Kate, and the different personalities, and really looking at the different ways that the brain learns. And they're very similar to the personalities. There are at least 8 different styles or 4 pairs. And so I thought we could talk about the difference between some of those. So one of them is the impulsive versus the reflective.
Yes.
And so an impulsive learner is the sort of person who will blurt out the answers. They like things to be quick, short, and sharp in the classroom. They want to get on with it. I know that I'm a bit more of an impulsive person because when somebody gives me instructions, I just need to hear it once and then just let me get on with it.
Right.
But I don't need to hear you say it 3 times. Just let me go and let me move.
Set me free. Yep.
Yes. But a reflective learner in a classroom likes to take that time to stop and think, to be able to reflect upon what they're going to say, to weigh up the pros and cons, to maybe even have several weeks beforehand pondering what they're going to do or what they're going to say or how they might approach something, rather than you've got 15 minutes to write a story, because they need that time to process.
So what are the, because that's very much an introverted, extroverted style of learning.
Yeah.
So what about when the child actually doesn't have that time? Because it's very rare in life that we actually give the learner who needs to do a lot of reflection. So as a teacher or a parent, what kind of time frames do you give those people to allow them to reflect on something and then come out with their learning or what they need to say or do?
So there's a couple of key little things that I do in a classroom and teach teachers, and this could be the same with your child as well. It might be just the day before saying, hey, tomorrow we're going to be doing this. Yep. So just the heads up strategy. So they've got time to think about that. And I know this was really important with my daughter as a parent because she didn't like change. So tomorrow, your teacher isn't going to be at school tomorrow because she's on a course and you're going to have this teacher. So she just needed prior warning. So that's one strategy. The other strategy, and it doesn't take any longer in most classrooms, is a teacher to say, right, I have 10 questions I'm going to ask you about a topic or find out what you know, or 10 things we're going to do today. All those people who want time to sit and reflect and think about it, come and sit over this side of the room. And all of those who want to just talk about it, bang, 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 and answer the questions, come and sit over this side of the room. So you give the reflectives their questions. So I'll be back in 5 minutes. You go back over to your impulsives, and I wouldn't necessarily call them impulsives and reflectives in the classroom. I'd just say who wants to here and who wants to go over here. They might choose where their friends go. They might choose it's because of the topic. And so while I'm with the impulsive ones, now I'm asking them to call out the answers, and we've got a bit of energy going. Now, when you've finished with those impulsive ones, the ones that have been blurting out answers, don't leave them with nothing to do.
No. They'll talk about anything and everything.
Well, they'll just go find something to do. They'll be poking somebody and they'll be doing something maybe they shouldn't. So then say to give those students something to do, give them an activity, you follow on, turn and talk to the person next to you, whatever it is, give them something to do, and then move back over to your reflective and say, what have you come up with?
That's a fabulous idea, because I actually have never even thought of that. I talk about those type of learners, but I've never looked for a solution to that, because I too have been out of the classroom for about 30 years. So I've never actually had to put that into place. If I had all this learning now, I'm sure I would actually be a much better teacher. But the other thing too, like you say, with the extroverted or the impulsive learners, is that also you almost need to leave them with a task that you can see the result of when you get back, because otherwise they'll just talk about anything and everything, like you say, not necessarily stick to the task in hand. But with the reflective learners too, getting the information verbally out of them is also really important, because in society we actually have to talk and we have to make decisions, and we do have to come out with information, like you say, in that term. So that's a wonderful strategy. I really like that. What other things have you got to offer us?
Okay, so then there's the next one, which is the global versus the analytical. So the global, as it suggests, wants the big picture. They want to be able to know, how does this fit with this and how does it fit with life? The number one question a global learner will ask is, why am I learning this? What's the point? Whereas an analytical learner just wants to know the facts. So they want to know that 70% of teachers are analytical, but 70% of students are global. So teachers teach in that analytical way, so that they teach facts and data, but without necessarily relationship and concept of where that fits into the bigger picture. So it's important for both of these learners. And again, we're not one or the other. This is a continuum.
No.
So you might change because of the topic, because of your
interest in it.
Interests levels. Yeah, lots of different reasons. So being able to the strategy for this for these learners as a teacher is to give the big picture first. I don't know, Kate, you're of the era that you'll remember the overhead projector.
Oh, yes. A big bulky thing in the classrooms. I wonder how many listeners will be remembering that.
Yeah, I wonder how many remember the overhead projector. And do you remember the technique we used on the overhead projector when we put the acetate slide on with all the information and then we covered it?
Yes.
And then we revealed it point by point by point. That is what is called intellectual flashing.
Okay.
It's my information. I'll show it to you when I'm ready. But that drives the global students crazy because they need to know there are 7 things we're going to be covering and they need to be able to see how they interrelate with each other. And so you might show them all 7 points first and then cover it so you can then focus on one. But they need to see the big picture first. Analyticals don't care. They just want the data. If you say numbers, they will write it down. If you say that kelp grows at 50 centimeters per day, that has been written down because they're like, oh, that's fascinating.
Yes. And you see, what you're answering for me is like I'm a detail person, and part of all of the global stuff is a little bit of thinking and feeling encompassed in that too. I struggle with people like you, the global learner, and it's really great to have that picture that you've just drawn for us of having all your data and not revealing it bit by bit, showing the whole thing. Because I say the same thing. I say without revealing the whole project, the global person or the intuitive gets bored. They're off. They don't want to see all of those analytical details, and they're out of your learning path. But I still struggle, and I've no doubt there'll be teachers out there that are going, oh my goodness, well, how do I do that? So it's a really great analogy to look at it as if you've got all those points, reveal them all first and give them something, and then go back to dot by dot point.
And you don't have to reveal absolutely everything, all your data and everything, but they need to know where they're going. So it's like you're painting a roadway or a picture of here's where we're heading, and so that they have some clue of where they are in the journey. You know, there are 7 points. We know that we're up to point 2, so we've got another 5 more. Yawn or yay,
or drift off and go back.
Whatever it is, but at least they know where they are on that journey.
Yes, yeah, that's fabulous.
Yeah. The next one is the difference between the sequential and the random. So as it suggests, the sequential likes to do things step by step by step by step, whereas the random, surprise, surprise, likes to do things in different orders. So I'm going to ask you, Kate, how do you do the housework? Are you more of a sequential houseworker or a random? Do you do?
I'm a random, so I start. And I talk about this, so I might start cleaning the dishes in the sink, and then I'll look up and there'll be I'll get the dirty glasses from the bedroom, but while I'm in the bedroom, I realise that the bed needs making. So then I start making the bed, and then I realise that the pot plant needs watering, so I go and water the pot plant, and then I put the washing in because there's dirty washing in the bedroom. So yeah, very non-sequential, bits and pieces, and then I've often started too much, and I have to finish it all, and it just gets too much, and then I go out and have a coffee. Because why bother?
It's called the Mambo effect. A little bit of this and a little bit of that.
That's right.
And so it's this random effect. Now, many students love being able to do a little bit of this and a little bit of that, but schools tend to be quite sequential. We have reading time, and we have maths time, and we have English time, and we have art time, and we have science time and music time, and so it happens in these little boxes, really. But the sequential, what's really important for them is they need to finish a task before they can go on to the next one. Now, I think this should be part of marriage guidance, because I recall my husband sitting at the table looking at one of those brochures, one of those books actually, with properties you can buy when we were property investing. And so he's flicking through, looking at all the properties. And I say, honey, tea is nearly ready. Could you please set the table? And I carry on. And then I look up and he's still going through this magazine. And I'm like, sweetheart, tea is nearly ready. Could you please? And so you know what's going to happen, right? And he's like, keeps flicking, and I start getting angry. And it wasn't till I understood this that I realized that he actually has to finish that task before he can move to the next one. Now, this is not only true for husbands, it's also, well, mine, generalization.
Yes. I'm not sure whether there's selective hearing in that too, but that's another story. Go on.
This is true for very young children. They can actually only process one thing at a time. If you say to your child, put your shoes on, and then we're going to go out, and then they start putting their shoes on, and you go, no, you've got to put your socks on first. Well, they actually have to finish putting their shoes on before they can put their socks on, because they have no logic order, and they're just doing they're doing the first thing they heard. And so they need to finish that task before they can move on to the next task, even if it's around the wrong way. They have to finish putting the shoes on and then go, oh, now take the shoes off so I can put the socks on.
Yeah, the socks on. Yep.
Yeah. But my husband worked in my office for a short time.
Fortunately.
Well, this is because he would ring a school and a teacher to get some information or to book something or do something. And then I would watch him, and he'd be sitting at his desk doing nothing. And I'd say to him, what are you doing? And he would say, I'm waiting for the teacher to ring me back. Now, the teachers listening are just going to crack up laughing like you, Kate, because that could be 3 days.
That's right.
We're busy.
7 o'clock that night.
Yeah, but he'd just sit there waiting. And I'm like, so he didn't last long.
No, good. You get on there and get it done. Absolutely.
Yeah, that's right. So the random people, so actually in a classroom, so I said we're very sequential in a classroom, but randoms don't like to be able to, necessarily finish things before they move on to the next. So they like to have their fingers in lots of pies. So one of the strategies in a classroom is to have a contract and say, here are your tasks that you need to do over the next day, week. You can do them when you like, how you like. Well, maybe not how you like, but if you do a bit of maths and then you think, oh, I'm bored with that, I'll go write my story and then I'll go and do some art. Or maybe they go, oh, I could get all that done a lot quicker. I'll just go and play a game of chess right now. And it looks like they're not doing anything, but they're actually managing their time really well.
That's a fabulous idea. That is a really great idea. You could almost use that at home as well. For anyone out there,
absolutely.
These tips, and you could probably use it in your marriage as well. Draw up a bit of a contract. but that's fantastic. So, what other learner have you?
Okay, so the last two pairs is the internally referenced versus the externally referenced. So an internally referenced person does things because it feels right, it's the right thing to do, it makes them feel good that it's done. Whereas an externally referenced person is doing it for the outside reward. They're doing it to get praise, they're doing it for the sticker, they're doing it for the money, they're doing it for the credits. So we have, particularly in New Zealand, with our NCEA senior system, exam system, it's all very externally referenced because you have to get so many credits, and many students can get 80 credits at level 1 and within the first 6 months of school, of the year. So they're like, well, I'm done my credits, so I don't need to do any more because they've got the reward of the qualification. So why do anything else? We want to make sure that we are balancing those two and helping children to be more internally referenced. We do it because it's the right thing to do, not because we're getting that external reward
for it. Yeah, yeah. I think I've got 2 of those children.
I think many of us. Yes. Yeah. So it's like when I go into the ladies' room, and I can't talk for men's rooms, but ladies' rooms are disgustingly, filthily dirty. It makes me so cross that women leave a public toilet so dirty. And I could bitch and moan about it, or I could just take responsibility. And I don't tell this to you for any kudos, but this is actually what I do. I go in there and I do my business, and then I come out and I maybe grab 2 or 3 extra hand towels and I wipe the sink. And when I take those 2 or 3 extra hand towels, I push the rubbish down instead of it overflowing. I might even take an extra hand towel and pick up some of them from the floor. Now, I am not doing it for any other reason that I just hope that the next woman who comes into that toilet is going to have a nicer experience than I did. And it feels good to do that, to actually, and I don't want anyone to say, oh, wow, you're amazing. And it feels a bit weird even telling the story, right? Because I don't want you to say that. I'm doing it because I just want the next person to have a better experience internally.
And it makes you feel good. And it's not something like you say you need to sell to the world, but it's just something that makes you feel good. I agree. I understand that. That's a fabulous look at what that means. And your last one.
That was it. That was the 8. We did 8.
We did 8. Well, that's brilliant. That is so good. There are so many great hints and things for people out there who are teachers and parents, not really, that whole line between teaching.
I do have another one.
Let's go.
So the last one is the matcher versus the mismatcher. This is actually one of my favorites. The matcher is the person who was always looking for things to go together and match and fit together. So they are great patterners. They are really good at taking commands and just doing as they're told. They're what a teacher would say is a good, ideal student in the classroom because they just take commands and get on with it. The mismatcher has a secret desire to be a matcher. However, anything that doesn't match will instantly cause them to go off course. So, for instance, as a teacher, have you ever had this experience where you look at a student's work and you instantly can see the mistake? You don't even have to look for it. You instantly find it. You're finding the mismatch of the thing that doesn't fit. So, here's what happens in a classroom. If you say there are 2 ways to do something, a mismatcher will put their hand up and say, I found a third. If you say we're going to do this art in crayon today, they'll say, can I use felt pens or texters? And it's like, what? No.
Just conform, would you?
Yeah. So instead of saying there are only 2 ways, say here are 2 ways. Because then the mismatcher is not looking for the third.
So the word only is really important.
Yeah. If you said there are enough scissors for every child in the class, and then you hand them out and there are not enough, then they're not going to believe you next time because there's a mismatch of what you said. And have you ever heard somebody talk about there are, you hear them say, there are 7 things, and then later on they go, there are 6 things. And you're like, hold on, but before they said 7. Yes. And so that's the mismatcher, right?
Yes.
And so you have to be careful that you're congruent with what you're saying and what you're doing because the mismatcher will catch you out every single time.
And if they do, and it's continuous, what do you do with the mismatcher?
You give them choice. You
Right.
say, would you like to use crayon or pastels? Would you like to use acrylic or water-based paint? You might get a different outcome. And then you also ask, I wonder statements. I wonder if there are enough scissors for every child.
Yes.
Now
Yes.
they're going to go, oh, I wonder
Not
if
there are.
Yeah. I wonder if and then they're going to go and find out, because they love wonder statements. This is great in parenting too. If you say to your child, right, we're going to have a bath, a mismatched child will say, I want a shower. Well, actually, as a parent, I don't care. The objective was to get them wet,
No, not
right?
at all.
Get them wet and
And
clean.
clean.
Clean, perhaps, but at least wet. But a strong mismatcher will then say, I'll have it in the morning. And it's like, now you have to make a decision. Are you going to let them have it in the morning and ensure they do? Or are you going to say you can have a bath or a shower and it must be tonight, and give them choice? So, yeah.
Excellent. I recognize that in my family as well. I'm sure there's a whole lot of people sitting out there going, yes, I get that. I totally understand that.
Yes.
That's magnificent. Well, thank you so much for sharing this all with us, Karen. What I'm going to do is, I'm going to get Karen to come back and join us again next time. And this time we're going to be talking about parenting and helping parents to learn help their children learn at home. And it's not always about learning schoolwork. A lot of life's lessons are learned at home. In fact, most of them. So we'll be having a look at that. Now, Karen, leaving today, can you just let us know 3 tips that you might give the teachers today, just quick tips on what's the best thing to do sometimes in a classroom with your learners?
Okay. Tip number 1, wait. Wait time. The average teacher asks a question and waits 1 second before they do one of 3 things. Answer the question, call upon somebody to answer it, or answer the question themselves. And 1 second is not enough time for thinking to occur. So first thing is wait and allow students time for thinking. Even your impulsives. Give them think time. Number 2 is talk less and allow the students to have their voice. We sometimes just talk far too much in a classroom. And if you use wait time and wait between 7 and 10 seconds,
it's very stressful.
I know, I knew you'd have to jump in. You see, and that's what kids do. They're like, oh, there's silence, I can talk now. Yes, so we want to talk less and allow the children to have more time to talk. And the third thing is to trust the students in your classroom. They know more than you think. They are smarter than you think. They are more capable than you think.
That's excellent information. Thank you so much, Karen. Thank you for sharing your expertise and information about students and learning with us today. I look forward to seeing you next time.
My pleasure.
Join Karen and I in the next episode, where we'll discuss how parents can prepare their children to learn skills and study in the current world. Thank you for listening to Personalities, Parenting and Partners. If you enjoy this episode, we'd love it if you could leave a rating and a review that would help others learn and also enjoy this podcast. If you have an episode idea, please send a note to thepersonalitycoach@gmail.com. If you're interested in discovering more about you and your family's personality types, you'll find my newly launched book, Who Is This Monster or Treasure in My House, on Booktopia or Amazon.